All right. Hey, ladies and
Hello.
gentlemen,
How's it going?
it's going good for me. How's it going for you?
I have not floated away, so that's positive. I live on top of a hill. We're good
That's
here.
legit.
Um,
Yeah, guess that's what we're talking about first.
yeah,
Uh,
it's all over national, international news. Apparently, because I have friends that have messaged me from other countries. They're like, "You all right?" Like, it's like St. Louis is really big, so like,
but it's a
um,
legit a big problem here,
oh,
right? Like it's
100%.
legit. Yeah, like I'm also lucky. I'm on high ground. My neighborhood's high as it is, and I'm also a high point of my neighborhood. But I'm not far away from places that are flooding in St. Charles. So
Yep.
yeah. So I think there was a non-zero amount of deaths, and
hmm
I mean modern day flooding can happen and it's crazy. Like we have a lot of engineering in place, but I
For those
guess
who
so
don't
maybe
know, we had well, over by me, we had about a foot in 2 days. Six, was it 10 inches of that was in within like 6 hours?
we
Yeah,
had we had July, all the rain we would have in July and August, and within like
Yeah,
24 hours.
yeah.
So
So
after a
as
drought,
well
the
as
ground was parched,
yeah,
it came down, and the earth just couldn't absorb it fast enough. And
no,
so roads became rivers. There's cars that you could not see, cars
yeah.
getting picked up and dropped off in ditches. So people would like come out of their house in the morning to check
Or
out the
on
damage, and the car is just in a ditch in total.
I saw one on a fire extinguisher, just like it got picked up and then dropped on a fire extinguisher, and they're like, I don't know how to
wow.
take care of this. So yeah, a lot
Yeah.
going on around us. Lee, do you have any damage or anything from that?
Um, as far as I know, the closest thing to us is a few miles away at a mall.
Yeah.
There was quite a bit of flooding in and around that mall area, but I was fine. I mean, I woke up several times during the night and I could still hear over the course of like several hours that it was still just pouring.
hmm
And so I was a little worried because I do have a basement with a sump pump and all that. And I thought, well, I hope it does its job tonight, which I guess, it did, thankfully. So,
Yeah, good. It sucks that that's the only time you can really test the sump pump is when you really need it. It's like,
yeah,
It's a great segue into like backups.
yeah, right,
yeah,
There's so many things that only matter in an emergency, and then you're glad you have them, right? So
exactly.
absolutely.
like scuba gear in our case.
Right now, yeah, yeah, and actually, to bring up our favorite topic of work from home, um, my company was very fortunate that they didn't lose any IT time during, or at least development time during this.
Yeah.
The only people that weren't working had a couple people on my team that were like, "Hey, my basement's flooded right now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be working today." I'm like, "Yeah, that makes 100% sense." Um,
Yeah.
so the only people really not working besides people affected um, were like all of the office workers that couldn't come in because the building itself was blocked.
Yeah.
Because we're
Yeah.
over down by,
Absolutely.
that Maryland Heights area over down there, Riverport. You saw those pictures? We have
Mm-hmm.
for
I've
chat.
seen a
We
few.
have a really big concert venue around here called what's it? UMB Bank Pavilion now.
I don't know.
Um,
I can't keep track. It
It's had
keeps
several
changing standing
names.
over here.
most people just call it Riverport still, but
The one by the landfill.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that one is
No, that's what we
the
call it.
seats were halfway up underwater.
Yeah.
Oof.
I saw a picture of that. Yeah.
hmm So it's definitely serious. So keep everybody if you can offer help, help. That's always what I said.
Yeah.
But yeah, besides that, since that is kind of where we are now,
How we get to where we are today,
how
not
did
in the
we get
weather sense.
how did
Yeah,
we
I'll
get
forego
to
the usual goofy intro where I act like an idiot because that was kind of a sober intro. I guess we'll still do an intro though.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
Anthony.
the
I'm
good
the data
takeaway from
engineer.
that though is that we're not we're all here and we're okay. Like
We're all here. We're okay. People are
yep.
impacted.
Yes, yes.
for sure. It's people we know
Yeah.
also, yeah. So, so it's not a big deal. But I guess we are going to carry on. So this is Ready Set Data. I'm Anthony, data engineer. We have O'Grady, the software engineer, and we have Lee Markham, the database extraordinaire. Yay!
Yay.
And we'll talk about
Yay.
our journey to
Anyway.
where we are today. So I believe the context really is like how we got into IT, how we kind of grew up, glowed up.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
Glowed up. That's true though. I mean, I'm sure all of us probably, and I guess we're gonna find out here, but came from a place that wasn't as glamorous as where we are now, which still isn't glamorous, but it's a lot more
No.
glamorous than it was.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, before we get going, we have a recent follower, to Kai
Okay.
F, I guess.
Half
So, yes.
Shout out to them
Hi,
if they're in,
Kath.
Thank you to that person.
And if we're pronouncing your moniker wrong, let us know.
yeah, we're gonna
Call
call
me
you
out.
Tuck.
I'm trying.
So
Tuck tuck.
Tuck. I don't know. That's what I do when I can't
man.
pronounce names. I'm just like, we're gonna go with like, what do most people call you when you're playing a video game and that was your like that's your gamer tag? They would probably call you Tuck.
Ah,
You know?
yeah.
Because then it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. That's why everybody
Okay.
calls me Grady, because it's like, it's one less syllable, and they're just like,
Yeah. Just that was one letter too many. and
Yeah.
A hyphen or apostrophe. So yeah, you don't want to pronounce that apostrophe. That's the problem. So agree.
exactly. So,
So, who's
So let's
going
go,
first?
guys.
so who do we do we want to start from the most seasoned to least? I don't know. Lee, why don't you start us out?
I'll start since
And
we're
tell
in
us-
a pause mode and we don't know who's going first.
I'll go
And you
first if you
volunteered.
guys want me to.
No, it's
See,
totally
the
cool.
No.
proof we're not scripted.
Scripted.
Yeah,
I don't
definitely
think
not
they.
scripted.
I don't think there needs to be proof that we're not scripted.
What is it you said something about when one of the times we got derailed as usual?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
derailed
us.
as usual.
Okay, so I got started in IT. I started to say officially, but unofficially in February of 2008. At the time, I was a call center supervisor and a checkout supervisor. So I was checkout supervisor at Sam's Club because, who doesn't want to aspire to that?
That's my dream job.
And well, at the time, so this does play into where I was and how I got to where I am. At the time, I thought about becoming the what do they call it? The front of store manager. That's not technically what it's called, but that's what it is. You manage all the cashiers and that whole process. So I had been considering that,
That actually sounds kind of
and
fun. That's probably not because customers involved.
I
It
mean,
sounds fun. On paper, it sounds good.
Yeah.
on paper, yeah. I was just looking for a career because um, I was kind of stagnated where I was. So the call center supervisor, I'd been in that role for I don't know, I'm going to say 5 years, um, and I'd already been in that industry for close to 10 years at that point, and I could do the job in my sleep. And so I was kind of looking. I was pretty comfortable, and I was kind of looking for is there anything else I can do? And a comment or conversation, an exchange. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. An exchange that happened between myself and my boss at the time, where I acknowledged or realized and uttered the idea that I was kind of at the top of what I was going to make in this role.
Yeah.
So there probably weren't too many more raises coming my way, no matter how long I stayed in this role. I was capped out probably,
Mhm.
even though there wasn't an official policy. At some point they're going to stop giving you raises if you're in the same job because
Or
the
at
job.
least significant raises.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you'll get your cost of living a lot of times, but it's like, it's not really a raise. That's more of a
Yeah.
adjustment.
Keep status
Yeah.
quo with inflation.
Mhm.
So, call center supervisor, I was in a big box retail as a checkout supervisor. And the lady who managed the piece of software at the call center was leaving her role to go to the vendor for that software. And they were looking for a replacement. And she says to me, you should apply for this job. And I'm like, what? No, I don't
Like, I'm
think I
not
know enough.
IT, right? In your
Yeah, I'm
brain, that's
not
what you're thinking.
IT.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm not IT. I don't want to like manage software. I don't really think I want to try that. Again, I'm comfortable, but I know I can't stay where I'm at.
Mhm.
Because,
So
oh, sorry, is interjection okay, or
is what?
is interjection okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so is it because at the time, obviously not anymore, at the time, the idea of software and IT sounds super intimidating as a layman, like the idea of
Yeah,
dealing with all that?
yeah.
Okay,
So her job, she did not, she wasn't technically part of IT, but I was
an
just like,
admin,
yeah, she was just like a
Gotcha.
software and app admin who reported to my bosses, yeah, to my boss's boss. And I had a great relationship with that person as well. But I don't know, it was just like intimidating. I wasn't sure I really wanted that responsibility. I like, I'd never managed software before. So, long story short is she convinces me to apply. We talk a little bit about the job and what it's like, and she convinces me to apply. So I do that. I ended up with the role, and I got promoted in like February 2008. Um, Now, keep in mind, I have no IT degree. I have no formal IT training of any kind at this point. The most advanced I am, I'm just an above average home computer user, you know, and I understand this piece of software from the user perspective really, really well. But that's it. I don't know what a server is. I don't know I mean, I know that there's Windows Server software, but I don't know
I would
anything
have
about it.
loved to meet
you knew
that
of the
Lee.
words. Yeah,
Like, to meet that Lee and talk to him. Be like, so, and then feel really good about myself for a minute.
I knew nothing almost. I mean, I just knew the things I mentioned.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's, I guess that's where we're all gonna
what's
start,
your
right?
what's your opinion on servers? They work on tips. I mean,
Right.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
that might have been my answer. I'd be like,
You're right.
um,
Should always tip them good. It's
I might have said, are you talking about the servers in the server room behind me? I mean, I'm glad they're there and I want them to always be running.
kind of
And when they're
noisy.
not, I
Can we turn
know
them
the
off?
extension to call and the IT people come fix it.
Those
So I took the role and we were kind of in the middle of a software upgrade for that piece of software. We knew a revision was coming and it was going to be pretty significant. So I got ramped up on that, on the new version coming, because I already know the current version pretty well. But in addition to that, we started planning a server upgrade. So we're gonna, this is in the old days when you would pull a server out of a rack and put a new one in the rack, and boom, you're doing an upgrade. So curiosity got the better of me, and I'm interested in this process, and I'm the liaison between our company and this vendor anyway. So I fall into managing this process, this upgrade process.
fall like face first into it. That's yours anyway.
Yeah. And I'm
Best way to
coordinating with
fall.
yeah, I'm coordinating with IT and with the vendor and with other people internally as part of this process. So that was kind of my first foray into IT work. We get the upgrade, which was, I can still remember, not fun. We were there a long time, like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. We'd started many hours before that. Um, but that was my first foray. You fast forward like a year, and I'm realizing that there is this thing called a database under the software. And what
Where
I
all it
know,
happens.
yeah,
Magic, right?
Where it all
that's where the
started.
magic is. The user interface gave us a way to fail over from one machine to another. So I knew that there were 3 computers, and then we used something called replication to get data between all those computers. And we had a nice little user interface that I knew how to use perfectly, and I mostly understood what it did. Well, um, again, I understood that there was a database there. There are in almost all pieces of software, there's a reporting component. Now, you guys both know that reporting components in software are never really complete. Like the vendor does
Yeah.
what they can, but customers always want more. Customers always see gaps. They're like, "Oh, well, can it do this?" And the vendor's like, "No, not really."
Or, yeah, we can make it do that eventually.
Yeah,
You know,
Cost you.
and it'll cost you $90,000 for us to make this custom report.
you know,
And then suddenly the customer's not as interested.
right?
Um, so I knew there was a database. There's this reporting need. So I got involved in SQL Server reporting services. Again, still no training. I bought a book, big thick book that might still be on the shelf over there, and started reading. And most of what I was reading, I didn't have a clue what it meant. But I did a lot of Googling, I did a lot of asking questions, and I learned. And so I learned reporting services so that I could then learn. So then I learned T-SQL, started online with just like online tutorials. You know, how do you select from a table? Anthony, you both, but particularly Anthony, you guys will both find this hilarious. So I'm working through this tutorial, and I did my first select from some table and did a join and got what I was supposed to, and I was elated. I was like, so great.
I know what I'm
We were all
doing
there.
ish.
Yeah, and I understood what was
Over and
happening.
over again, right? Over and over again. We're there. We're still getting there, like with little
Yeah.
things.
But really, I mean, I started small. Like, guys, I knew nothing.
Yep.
I'm just relying on tutorials I found to tell me how to write a basic select from this, join this table. And then I learned this great thing called filtering and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
don't know,
learning.
like that's special and all that, but this is the part where I really, really want to just like tell everyone who's watching, like that's pretty much everybody. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah, like
Oh, yeah.
you aren't you born Zuckerberg or whatever the heck his name is, and like I know how to do all the things. I don't know if he does or not, but that's not the point, right? That's like we're all trying to figure things out. We're all
Oh, yeah.
fighting our way through. Some's
Yeah.
more dramatic than others, but like
Think,
yeah,
you think I'm not on
100%.
Stack Overflow all day? Like, that's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah, Google is the front end interface to search Stack Overflow. Pretty
Exactly.
much.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
Google it and then I look for the first Stack Overflow link. I'm like, there we go.
That's a good place to start,
Yeah.
actually. That's it.
It depends
so
how
yeah.
ingrained the problem is. Because when you know you're starting to get advanced, when you Google it and there's no answers, and you're like, no.
Yeah.
That's an opportunity to answer the question, though.
It is. And then you can
Yeah.
blog about it if you have a blog.
Even better.
So I'm on this journey of learning T-SQL. I'm learning reporting services. I get something stood up, and I'm like, guys, to my managers, hey, here's this report you asked me for. And they're like, great, can you have it sent to us? I'm like, why? I just gave you a link. You could click the link in your browser and go to the report, but okay.
Aww.
So then I have to figure
Now
out
you
how
know better.
to deliver the report. Yes, now I know better. I would just
They
deliver it by
needed,
email.
yeah, they needed to go in a folder that they'll never check. That's the
No,
end goal.
actually, it needs
Yeah.
to
The
be
sooner you
printed
know that,
out.
the better.
You print it and then put it on their desk every day. That's like, here's
Yeah.
your damn report.
So that was an adventure. And then I realized that I could do way more than reporting. Like there's this cool thing called, well, at the time I thought it was cool because I understood it, but there's this cool thing called replication going on, and that's what keeps the application up and gives us the ability to fail over from machine to machine to machine, which we needed to do because Underwriters Laboratory kind of governs not the right word, but I'll use it, governs our industry in some ways, and they have rules about failing over the application every so often. And so, curious as I am, I'm looking into and realize that this user interface that I've been using that the vendor built is actually just doing all this cool stuff in the database under the covers. So I learned transactional replication, which some people would feel sorry for me for having done that, but I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It does have a lot of moving parts.
Sure. Yeah.
And yeah, at this point, I'm kind of just what I will call the scratch and claw method. So whenever something new came up, I would just scratch and claw, mostly at the internet, to get information. I still don't know anything. I have no formal training. I read this reporting services book. I think maybe I have an administration book that I'm kind of looking through, and that maybe that's how I learned replication.
Sounding more and more like a developer every minute here.
Well,
I
it's
guess
interesting.
we're all not all that different.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
We just
So
talk in different languages.
yeah. So it really was just a scenario where I'm just trying to survive. Like I'm trying to figure out how to solve the next problem that comes my way. It was really frustrating because I don't have any formal training, and um, I was like, man, I might be in over my head.
Do
Like
you feel like your lack of formal training meant, I guess, was that more important to you or to your business?
it was
Or
more important to
do they
me.
care about it at all?
They didn't care.
Okay.
It was more important to me because I hated not understanding things.
Mhm.
And by this point, I've actually been promoted officially or moved officially into IT. In the interim, there, I was doing the application job, managing the application, writing reports, and I began managing the data entry team for like a year in there. And then I moved into uh, IT officially. I think that was 2010. But I'm in there with IT, all these people who know a ton about IT, and I know almost nothing. And so it was a lot of insecurity, a lot of imposter syndrome, like we've talked
Say
about before.
now we all know nothing. So it's like we're all just on the
Yeah,
same level of we don't really know IT. We know like our part of it and then we can kind of grow a little bit, but
yeah.
we're very specialized, a lot of us.
And part of so there was a lot of what I just explained, driving
Mm.
that, but I also have higher education. And so education's always been important to me, and I felt like I was missing that piece.
Yeah.
At somewhere along the way, I discovered a training center here in the St. Louis area that had day classes for people with day jobs. And they had database stuff. And I was like, yes, be my savior. Um, my my company reimbursed for those classes, and I got a certificate in database technology from this place. And it was a fantastic experience because I would take a 2-day class and learn in 2 days what it would take me 6 months to learn otherwise.
Right.
Um, and I started with T-SQL, and I took the 3 T-SQL classes they had at the time. And because I was doing report development, it's funny you talk about that. I was a developer, even though I didn't know that.
Right.
You're
I
developing
was a
reports.
developer. And so I would write stored procedures for the reports once I realized that I should be writing stored procedures and not plain text. And developing reports in reporting services using this thing that you guys both know as Visual Studio.
They used Visual Studio?
I did.
Man,
I did.
version
Uh,
1?
and back then, I just knew it as something called BIDS, which was
Yeah.
Business Intelligence Development Studio.
Oh.
It was just a specialized shell of Visual Studio
Mhm.
for reporting services. So, yeah, I mean, I was a developer, even though I didn't really know that. There were some developers around me at that point. We had hired some folks, and I was really learning a lot from them. I took administrative classes, so that's where I really dove into replication and understanding that because it was super important to our primary application. And learned some performance tuning. Early in this process, I ran across some guy that no one knows named Brent Ozar, and really enjoyed his company, which was Brent, Kendra Little, um, some other person
Eric,
whose name I can't
Eric
remember right
Darling.
now. Later it was Eric, but there was
Oh,
another
wait, wait.
person there at the time. I can't think of that person. Oh, Jeremiah Peshka. Um, and Kendra and Jeremiah were either dating or married at that point. Um, Kendra and Jeremiah left. Anyway, I'm getting off. I discovered Brent, and I learned a lot from Brent's site, from his company, from all of those folks there. And so got into performance tuning, and we had an application there that was pretty awful. It ran awful, like several times a day. There were problems, and this application's problems became my application's problems because the two things were connected to each other.
Yeah. It's funny how that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I learned about app integration the hard way when it doesn't work very well. Yeah, so I got into performance tuning, and some other folks there began to ask me questions about, hey, this query is slow. Can you help us? Can you help us figure it out? And so it was just a gradual progress of learning information. What I didn't know, I just had to look up either through Google or a book that was this thick. It's a little bit of exaggeration. Maybe it was only this thick. I went on. So then I discovered this thing called database administration, and that's where I kind of dove into replication. I'm like, this makes so much more sense than that T-SQL stuff I'm trying to learn. And this is where the road splits, Anthony. Sorry.
Yes. Yes, that's where
Um,
the road splits.
so I dove into database administration, and at this time, I'm still like looking for a career because I'm thinking this application management thing I'm doing is very, very specific to my
Mhm.
industry. If this company goes under, I'm hosed because I have no way to get another job because I only know a tiny slice. And I've discovered reporting services, I've discovered database administration. So I went to salary.com and I typed in database administrator
Yep.
Lee's
to
face
look.
after he does that.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Mhm.
So when I saw what I could make, I was like,
Yep.
what? Way more than I was being paid.
Oh,
Better
yeah.
than minimum wage.
And
Yeah.
I was like, I'm totally doing this. Like, I have to build a career and I'm going to build it right here on this.
Yeah.
And so I did. That was a turning point for me, really. I had at this point, I'm like in my early 30s. I have a wife. I have 3 children who like to eat. We like to sleep under roofs that don't leak. And so I'm like, I need to do this.
Yeah.
I spend the better part of the next year um, reading big, thick books
Yeah.
and taking classes still at the training center. And I found this website called SQLskills.com, this guy named Paul Randall. And these videos that he and his company made for the Microsoft Certified Masters course that was still a thing back then. This was like 2006. Let me think about this.
I think that's
Yeah.
I know one other person that has that. He used to sit in a big office when you walked into our.
Oh, you're thinking MVP.
I am thinking of an MVP.
Yeah.
Which was cool to discover that that person was an MVP. I was
Yeah.
impressed.
Yeah.
Um,
But
so
sorry.
yeah, I mean, I spent like 9 months. I would go to bed. I would go to bed around 9 o'clock when my wife would go to bed because she had to be up in the wee hours of the morning to go to work at a big box retailer to check prices. Um, uh, I would start studying, and I would study from like 9 to 11 ish,
Mhm.
pretty much every night. And then I would study. I would take a break, usually Friday nights, and then Saturday it was 5 6 hours and 5 or 6 hours on Sunday. And I ramped up to take my first Microsoft certification. It was on 2008. I knew that the deadline was coming up. After this deadline, I couldn't get the cert anymore. And this is 2004. Uh, no, wait, 2007. I'm thinking of specific things, and I'll explain in a minute. So the year that I'm going to get this certification is the last time, and the last year it's available. I schedule it. Um, I schedule it on the day that my dad passed away, and I thought I'm going to do it for me, but I'm going to do it for him. He would be super proud.
Yeah.
Which sounded like a great idea initially, but then it just like added another layer of pressure.
Yeah, because then it's like, well, now you fail, it's even kind of a bigger deal, or it's gonna feel like a
Yeah,
bigger deal. Yeah,
yeah.
it's true.
So went
Sometimes that
in, took
helps, though.
it did. You know, I bought I bought a test to
Mhm.
a certification prep test kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah,
I don't mean I bought a certification test as in I cheated. That's not what I mean.
I bought a
I bought
I bought the
certification
certification
prep.
Randall.
answers, and then
Yeah, no. So I worked through that, felt pretty good. Then I just bought a different one, just like I just need a different perspective, and I'm so glad I did that because man, did I still have more I needed to learn. Short of it is, I got the cert and it was fantastic. I was super excited. Um, I ended up leaving that place because the technology was old. They were never going to upgrade. My skills
yeah,
were going to stay old forever. And I got a six. Mm-mm. I got a 10% raise the first move out.
going to a new place.
Going to a new place, I got a 10% raise. Um, and
And do you feel like that
haven't
was
looked.
to get your foot into the door? You took a do you feel like you took a lower paying job to get solidified, I guess? Because
Um,
like you looked at those, like you said, you looked online and you saw how much an
oh yeah,
average,
yeah. This
Oh
this is
yeah.
an entry level job
yeah,
that I took, but it was still a 10% raise from what I was
yeah,
making, and um, I'd only had an actual DBA title for like 9 months. I'd been doing the work of a DBA for
yeah.
2 years,
That
but
how it is sometimes.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll have to have another show about that sometime. Um,
Yeah. And
so yeah, I mean, it took a long time for me to explain. I apologize, but that's my journey.
no, that we were discussing. We'll do we're just gonna do one person per night, so we don't have to rush. We can
Yeah.
ask
Rush. We
questions
can
and
keep
talk
going.
about it.
Okay.
Because I mean, I'm sure we got questions
Yeah, we
to.
felt like it was going good, and we weren't gonna like, hey, did you know what
No,
time it is? And
it's.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah,
I mean,
so you got so hey, just
yeah.
a recap. Let's pretend we did commercials and everybody came back, and we were just hearing, yay, we were just hearing about Lee's journey, and he got an official DBA title, and even though he's been doing the work for a while, but they gave him
Mhm.
that title, and 9 months later, after having that title, he
Had it.
realized that he needed to level up, and he wasn't going to level up there. So he found himself another position as a DB. It was
Yeah.
entry level, but you were going to touch new technologies and you were going to touch and work with new, harder problems so you can level up yourself and your career.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
That's what I did. And it was really cool. I was so happy. It's interesting. It's been an up and down journey with me in terms of how I feel about having to learn applications. Because when I first got started, I got started because I knew an app. And then I
Mhm.
wanted to learn databases, but I couldn't get away from being in charge of the application.
Yeah.
Once I moved and got that first role that we just talked about, I was just databases. And I was so excited. I was like, I can just focus on SQL Server. That will
You
be,
just hone your skills. Yes.
Yep.
yes.
Specialization is important.
Oh
Yeah,
yes.
it is. It was a good move to make. I learned a lot at that place. It was also terrifying.
Oh
In
yes.
one respect, because I went from a place where I was the big fish in the small pond. I was the man. Like, if you wanted to know something about this application, you talk to me. And if and I was becoming the person in terms of SQL. So now I go to this place that has a whole team of people who do database work, and the company is much larger. And none of the specialized knowledge I have for that application even matters. So, like, everything that I'm familiar with, other than what I've learned about databases, is blown away in one move. And I was terrified.
Yeah.
But I made it work.
Yeah. Now I won't give away spoilers for when it's my turn, but going to a new job with all I have is what I learned, not from the last job, but from books because new languages that I'm moving to. So
Wow, that'd be tough.
yeah,
But
that's a
it's so worth it.
oh yeah.
I I wish I'd done it sooner. Like, I stayed an extra year out of loyalty to someone,
Mm,
and I don't regret my loyalty to that person. I regret letting that keep me at the job.
yeah.
Um, I would still, in the right situation, if that person called me tonight and gave me the right situation, I would be like, when can I get there?
Yeah.
I'll be there for you. Let's do this.
That's kind of
Um,
awesome.
Yeah.
and if I gave the link, that's made me think I should give the link to this thing to that person on LinkedIn. They would totally love that. Because I still talk to this person every once in a while. That person really helped me early on in my career. It took me under their wing as I was a mentee, so it was good. But yeah, I stayed too long because I was
Yeah.
loyal to them. I wanted to help that person. I loved my industry and I loved what I was doing. Like, I really loved reporting services, and it
Did
was
you
really
love it
cool.
or were you comfortable with it and you were good at it so it built the endorphins of I'm good at something and I'm getting praised for it. I
I
love
think
it.
it's all of those things. I think I loved it because of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
But like you said,
so yeah.
eventually you do get stagnant. It's you have to make that choice to move on to progress your career. And
Yeah.
part of what I was getting to earlier is, I've known people that have left a job and went to a new company with a lower salary just because they might have been the big fish at the last job.
Yeah.
They just want to get their foot in the door as an IT personnel so that they
Sure.
can use that as their stepping stone and put that in a resume. Because, like you said, you've been doing the job for 2 years, but without a title, something happens, the next company is going to be like, yeah, okay, sure, you did all that.
Hmm.
You don't,
Yeah. And
you
that
know,
job, people at that job kept telling me that titles don't matter. And I
they
was
matter
like,
for my
well,
resume for when I'm not here anymore.
why
We
don't you
don't.
just give me the title if it doesn't matter?
What they don't
That's,
tell you is they're leaving out some important parts of that. They mean it. They say the title doesn't matter. The title doesn't matter as long as you stay here.
yes,
That's what they're saying.
Yes.
the title doesn't matter to anybody at the company. That's
Yeah.
like, well, then I don't want one from you, but like, I want one for my resume still because title should mean
Yeah,
something.
Yeah,
I agree with Dunn. So you can build a resume of skills without a title. This is
Oh, yeah.
true.
absolutely. And that's what I
But if you're
did.
doing the job, you
Mhm.
might want the title, right?
Well, and that's what what
Yeah.
I'm saying. So if you have a resume with all these skills that you're already doing at a current company, I've known people that have had that. They've taken the pay hit to go move and have an official position doing those jobs.
Yeah.
Even if they're better than entry level, they take an entry level knowing we're better than entry level. I'll get promoted soon anyway.
Right.
Get
Yeah,
to
it's
an
a great
IT
strategy.
position. It works out great a lot of times.
Yeah. So I totally would have stayed at this place if they had kept up with technology. I would have
Also,
stayed there because I I I liked what we were doing. I liked the people I was working with, and yeah, I mean, we it was like, let me think about this. I guess it was 20. I left in 2014. Yeah, so I left in like November of 2014, and we had just recently updated one of the systems there. We stood up a new reporting services that was SQL Server 2012. The other systems, the systems that ran my application, that was at the core of the business, was on SQL Server 2005 in 2014.
Solid
Yes.
year.
And I was like, this isn't gonna work. Like, I'm years behind already. So
Then you run
yeah.
into a position where you have to do a double upgrade.
Yes. Yeah, and upskill your knowledge really rapidly. And
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, that's something a lot of companies don't think about, I think, is you know, the further they let their technology fall behind, the harder it is to get it caught up a lot of, especially in the data side. You know, I know
Mhm.
people using the green screens, the DB2 AS400,
Frames, COBOL, et cetera, et
COBOL,
cetera.
stuff that's essentially very specific, I guess you can say, very small
Yeah.
amount of people that use it now. You know, but some companies are sticking with it because they can't. It's so integral into the center of the shipping or purchasing or whatever's being used that
It's about every
you,
financial institution is
yeah,
still, if it's been around for a minute, it's on mainframes, right? It
yeah,
hasn't started in the last 5 years,
Yeah.
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 And then they're like, well, we can't get rid of it. So it's like, okay, so then all of us have to work around it, which then creates
Yeah.
this whole slew
Yeah.
of problems. You know that.
And they think they're saving money, but then eventually what
Mhm.
happens is
Yeah.
you've got to get people like Liam Nelson who have a very specific skill.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, and then those people getting rarer and rarer. So
Mhm.
the people who left can ask for lots of money.
Right. I
And
want
for
to
now,
fast
they should be.
yeah. I want to fast forward to where we all worked for a minute.
Okay.
Before we do that, can we somehow get sponsored by Sparkling Ice waters? Because these are
Oh.
amazing, especially the
Oh,
black
it's
cherry.
black cherry. I want to try that. Yeah.
Zero sugar with vitamins
Oh, great! It would be if
and
I had one. I like a
antioxidant.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, they're 0 calories, 0 sugar, so or 5 calories. I'm sorry, but 0 sugar.
I'll have to check that out because the zero sugar thing is important to me.
Yeah, me too. I'm not trying to
Because you're
not do
already
too
too
much.
sweetly.
I know, right? So
I'm gonna drink it like this from now on.
do it. If I had a good Emperor Palpatine impersonation, I would do that right there. Do it.
Do it.
Anyway,
Like, so you're fast forwarding. You're gonna skip a few years.
yeah, so I'm going to
and-
skip a few jobs, and I arrive at the place where the three of us all worked, and we got a third party vendor to help us. Well, there already was a third party vendor helping us, and I switched it to a different company. And This company is stocked with people who are Microsoft MVPs on SQL Server. The least amount of experience that those folks had at the time was, 10 or 15 years. So they have 2.5 times the experience I have at this point in terms of years. And so, I would, like every person, I run into a problem and I can't solve it, and I Google and I Google and I don't know the answer.
Yep.
So I would kick it to this software company, and they would rattle off like 3 or 4 things. Did you try this? Did you try this? Did you try this? Yes, yes, and yes. That was actually a confidence booster for me to realize that I knew way more than I realized I did, because I'm
Right.
talking to someone with 5 to 10 years more experience than me, and I've already ticked off the first 3 or 4 things that they would have looked for. And those things were not the answer. So now they have to go off and Google or talk to their peer to find out, as I think O'Grady, you were talking about, a very specific slice of information in order to solve the problem. And the first couple of times it happened, I was surprised. The more it kept happening, the more I realized, like, I might know a couple of things. I'm not an expert. I'm not Paul Randall. I'm not Brent Ozar. But I'm also not Lee, the guy who started his journey 6 years ago and didn't know anything.
Yeah.
Like, I've come a long way. So it helped me shed this, to some degree, the imposter syndrome of I'm just a fake hiding behind Google.
Yeah.
And it was really, really, really helpful for me. And I thought I'd always wanted to give back because I got a lot of help from the SQL Server community. Read lots of forums, lots of blogs, all this kind of good stuff to learn. But I never felt like I was capable, like I don't know enough yet. And I said that to myself for years. Like I don't know. I don't know enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very
And I
common,
came
I
to
think, saying around all of us when we don't want to
yeah.
stretch too much at the time.
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to do that. I
But
don't
I
quite know
began to
enough.
realize I knew more than I thought I did,
Hmm.
and I need to give myself a little credit. So I'm in a position, fast forward some more, where I want to find people who are in that phase of their career like me when I started those first few years. They don't know, they don't even know what they don't know. They just know they're interested in this thing called SQL Server in databases. They know they need to learn how to query some stuff. They might be writing reports or doing SQL development, or maybe the boss handed them the SQL Server when it was on fire, and they don't really know what to do with it, but they got to figure it out.
Where
Day
to
one,
start?
single server's broken. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to be able to help those folks. I remember what it was like, and while I was excited to be on the journey, it also kind of
Scary journey.
sucked.
Yeah.
Um, it was hard, you know. Uh, I want to help fast forward them. If I can.
Yeah.
I'm not saying people shouldn't spend a fair amount of time studying and learning, but 2 hours every night. I probably spent close to 20 hours a week studying. That's after I worked the 40-hour week.
Done. So you currently in this position? Yeah,
What's
that's
that? Uh,
yeah. I've been talking to Dunce a little offline
yeah, like
about
that.
how some of the things he's dealing with now, and I'm like, I need to talk to Lee about some of this. It's getting to some of it's a little up there. So,
Uh,
but that puts you
yeah,
in a good position as well, because
sure.
you're now the guy that knows the most SQL. Well, you can leverage that with the company that you're at if you want to, and say, I'm the most knowledgeable now. I feel like that deserves X amount more.
Yeah.
And then, or
Oh,
you can leverage that as another company, being like,
Yeah,
I
for
did
sure.
this now. I was the head of my team, or the whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
What did you remember, Lee?
I remember you talking about leverage and like I'm thinking of milestones. So
Mm. That's how you
just
move a
this
milestone. You have to have leverage to
that's
and a
right. That's
fulcrum.
right. So another milestone was reached about 2 months ago. So I started presenting about 18 months ago. It was also something I'd always wanted to do, but like I wasn't comfortable with it, so I eased myself into it.
Mhm.
And I presented at this conference called New Stars of Data. It was people like me who know some things and they just want to get started presenting. And I had a lovely mentor, Leslie Andrews, who is well known in the SQL Server community. She mentored me, helped me build my presentation, the PowerPoint, and all that stuff. So that went well. And I gave a few more presentations. I switched jobs again, and my current boss has been to pass in the years past quite a bit.
Mhm.
Um,
As
not
as a
specifically
presenter or as a listener,
as an attendee,
attendee. That's the word.
yeah,
It's a
but
worker.
he's as a lurker, yeah. But he got to know some big name folks because he went there for
Hmm.
several years in a row, and he and I were talking one day, and I also talked to my wife, and they were both like, I had this crazy idea, like, do you think I should submit a session to see if I could speak at Pass? He was like, yeah, man, why not? I'm like, why in the world would they choose me? Like, no one knows who I am. Uh,
No one knows who any of those people were until they were people that people knew of.
Right.
yes, that's
Thank you.
true.
Thank you, Grady.
Took a lot to
Yeah,
process what I was trying to say there, and it all came out right. So,
it did. It did. So at my wife's encouragement, my boss's encouragement, I submitted. I felt like it was the craziest thing. I'm like, they're not gonna pick me. Uh, and they picked me.
yeah,
I was like,
Yeah, that is a
yes,
milestone.
that's a huge
That is
yes, a
milestone.
major
Yeah,
milestone.
yeah.
So I'm gonna be presenting online at the Path Summit in November, Redgate Community Path Summit, and I actually may go there. So my presentation will be recorded and
Hmm.
then released. People can watch it ahead of time, and then I think the way it's going to work is we're actually going to play the recording, um, and then people will have a 15-minute. Well, there will be a 15-minute question and answers after that.
Okay.
So I'm trying to work out a way to go to the summit and still be present and available for my session.
Yeah,
So I'd be really excited to be a speaker and present at my first in-person
yeah.
session, my first in-person pass. I've attended the last 2 years online, which was great. I learned a lot, and I connected with people.
Did they have physical ones these past couple years?
They were the last 2 years. They were all online. They
Okay.
talked about doing a hybrid one last year, but decided not to do that yet. Um, but they are doing online and in person this year. And so actually, let me drop the link in there since we're talking about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Data.
all.
And
Yeah,
I
that's
would encourage you guys to sign up, like especially well, you and people who might watch this later.
Do you
There's
want to
good stuff in there.
give like a commercial for Pass? You think you could do that?
Sure.
Just for like, I mean, I know
Yeah.
we're gonna have people that don't might not be normal attendees to even any conference, so you know,
Yeah.
kind of a
So
rundown on how
having
that
been
would
to
work.
other conferences, like I went to conferences for the user group for the application that I managed. So it was a really cool experience. You get to travel, you get to see a new side to your boss or coworkers that you're
Mhm.
traveling with. You get to see them as real people and not just the people you work with every day. So that's one reason to go to conferences.
That brings up something I wanted to talk about. I thought about earlier, but
Yeah.
it was about hanging out with coworkers or seeing coworkers outside of work. And I saw a couple posts. It was really one post that was like had a bunch of comments and really negative feedback about It said something about like, oh, we worked so hard this year, or we worked so hard on this project that we're gonna celebrate by taking everybody out to pizza or something like that. And everyone's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, company's always just trying to get off by celebrate. The response was, I'm outside of work, I'm not getting paid, I'm not going.
Okay.
So
Eh,
bad way to look at it.
I think so.
Um,
Yes.
so earlier when you brought up going to conferences and people that you've met along the way, or it was, I think it was your friend you said that. By
Yeah.
going, you meet people. You meet these networking. You're networking with networking people, but
Yeah.
these are all a lot of big names or people that turn into big names. Um, not just meeting them to use them to know them, but I mean,
Yeah.
you get real connections with people. You can,
Yep.
bounce ideas off of them and grow. You can have your career go along with their career. But
Absolutely.
the people that I all saw complaining mostly about this were also people that most likely are going to stick in a 9 to 5 job with no actual growth potential. And if you are currently in the mindset of, if I'm not getting paid, I'm not doing it, you have to leave that before you decide to grow in your career.
Yeah.
So that's what I was bringing up, because I was like, I want to make sure that's known that
Yeah.
a lot of companies do that sometimes as the employees might look at it as a cop out, but most companies
Right.
are actually trying to be genuine
They're
about it. It might
trying.
come off
Yeah.
I mean,
cheesy,
so
but
if the company's paying you, like if they didn't do the pizza party, let's use the pizza party analogy, right? There's
mhm.
there's a whole bunch of things happen. If they did do the pizza party, if you're not complaining about your pay and your respects and boss is giving you an attaboy and all that stuff, and I'm watering it down a little bit, but like if you
Oh
don't
yeah,
feel all that stuff, you have every reason to complain. But you're having that, and they feel like we're taking care of you as a employer, but we want to like you guys are awesome and we're a team and let's do something if you're interested.
yeah,
That's not a negative. That's not copping out. That's saying like, I want to dodge saying above and beyond, right? Because some of
yeah.
us might want to argue companies should do
Yeah.
that. So that's not a cop out. That's like, you guys are killing it. Let's
It's
celebrate.
their due diligence of extra reward for doing a good job. But yeah, like you said,
Yeah.
we're salary, so we also have a different, maybe a different approach to this. But I don't know. Even when I was hourly, and we'll get into this whenever it's my turn to talk. But um, I never looked at hours except for on a paycheck. Like the amount of hours I put in
Mm.
far surpassed the amount of hours on my paycheck. And if I didn't, I wouldn't be sitting here doing the job I do. And yeah,
Right.
so as soon as people can realize that helping themselves outside of the job is the only way to progress your job. You said you were sitting there reading just thick book after thick book. That's
Yeah.
probably most of our backgrounds. That's going to be a common trait between most IT people is self-learning. There you go.
So this isn't
Mine
a
over there.
SQL Server book, but it's comparable. This is Postgres
Smells like
SQL.
Postgres. Yeah. Oh, you beat me to it. Take it.
It's,
Oh, yeah. Learn Postgres SQL. But I mean, it's pretty comparable. I mean, these are the size books. And the first SQL Server book I got, which I don't have over here, was like this.
yeah.
I mean, it was massive. It is massive. I still consult it. But yeah, you got to put in some effort and
Yep.
and try to enjoy when your company does make some sort of effort. Embrace it. Don't whine or feel like they're
You don't
trying to
have to
be
do it.
underhanded. No, you don't have to. But
No.
if you want to advance, like sometimes you need to do stuff like that. Be seen.
And it's not about like smoozing and brown nosing. It's
Well, it
making
shouldn't be. Yeah.
genuine connections with
Yeah.
other like for me,
Yeah.
you guys know
Yeah,
I do
each
all
other.
kinds of
It's
stuff.
not just the bosses, it's each other,
Yeah.
right?
I'm like, I
Yeah.
meet
Yeah.
people from other teams that now I know, like, oh, I have a question about this. I'm going to go talk to so and so. I met them at the conference that we put on. Like, I'm going to see if they have an answer. And since they work at the same company,
Yeah.
pretty easy collaboration there, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
So this reminds me
yeah.
of something. So you asked me before a commercial for Pass, and I will give
Oh,
you my
yeah.
commercial and tie it into what we're talking about here. So my commercial about Pass is um, Pass is a fantastic way to get to know people in your community. If you're in any way connected to SQL Server, you need to connect to Pass and the people at Pass. SQL Server community doesn't just care about you as a professional. Yes, they do care on that level, but it's not just that. They don't want to help you, just help you get better with whatever it is you do with T-SQL, whether that's development or administration, whether that's Power BI or Azure Synapse or whatever it is that is your thing. They also care about you as a person, and they want to get to know that person. And so I've connected with several people through Pass. I've had conversations in a virtual room with the big name people who don't care that I'm no one. They're interested in talking to me.
Yep.
One of those persons, I feel, I can't say close to her, but our relationship is better. It's getting stronger.
Mhm.
She came over, virtually came over. She moved her icon over to me because they have this cool thing, these virtual rooms where you're just like a little circle, and all the little circles get close to each other so that they can talk. So I'm standing away, trying to figure out who do I want to, slide over next to try to get into whatever conversation is happening. And she moves over to me and just starts talking to me. And I was like, oh my God, this person is talking to me. Internally, obviously.
No, he
she's
but
said
like,
that.
she's like, never mind.
right. But it meant a lot,
Yeah.
and she didn't care. Like, she doesn't want I don't need to impress her. I can't impress her. She knows way more than me. So she's coming to talk to me just to find out, who is this guy over here? I don't know him. Um, but that connection has continued. She started a LinkedIn group um, through her business, but it's her. Her and her husband run a business called Minionware.
Minionware.
And if you go
Over
to Minionware,
is it
oh,
overalls?
Banana.
Blue overalls?
Banana.
I don't think so. No, we're not
Not
talking about Minions.
no.
It's this. Am I in Minionware? I think it's .net.
About to
Might be
find out.
.com. But Minionware, and they built a piece of software, and that does a lot for monitoring SQL Server. But go to Path to connect with people. Obviously, you're going to learn. And any of the three of us,
Mhm.
or someone like Dunce who's trying to learn T-SQL and maybe build reports or whatever, go to Paths.
Yeah.
And go to the after events
Oh, those are
and
my favorite. And
meet
everyone, no one
people.
goes. Like half the people don't go to these a lot of times at conferences. And they're the coolest events is the after parties when you're actually usually have a beer in your hand, walking around talking to
Yeah.
people. That's when a lot of the connections are made.
Yep.
Guards are let down because you're not in any kind of formal setting. Whereas sometimes during the conference, you feel a little more formal. You have your name tags on and
Yeah.
you're kind of doing your thing. After parties,
Yep.
they let it down a little bit. Many of the ones I've been to, some of the main speakers would like sit at certain tables, and then people would kind of filter in and out.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yep.
you kind of see, Jim Shore we had the other day. I'm like, you kind of sit there and wait for the table to be empty, and you're like, oh, okay, it's empty. I'm gonna go talk to him.
Yeah.
And they know that's
Yeah.
what they're there for as well. So
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
it's really cool.
definitely recommend going to. Sorry, my armchair just kind of gave out. Going to conferences in general, but PASS specifically.
Yeah, the online version is really affordable. Um, and well, I feel like it's affordable. I know, so let me follow that up by saying I know I'm sitting in a position of privilege. It's affordable for me. If you can find a way to go, please do
So it's
that.
affordable for a conference
It's affordable for an
in
online
general.
conference for
Yeah.
sure. Maybe ask if your business will pay for half of it. You pay half, they pay half,
Mhm.
and pitch the value of it, pitch the things that you're going to learn. There's a full slate of classes so you can see what you might learn.
Yeah.
And build a reason, build a case to have your company pay for part of it. Show them how it's going to help them.
And make sure you actually ask, because we know DevUp. Or
Mhm.
most people know DevUp, and my boss's boss was like, "Yeah, I'm surprised no one wanted to go to DevUp this year." I'm like, "I didn't mention it. You're
Oh
right.
no.
I forgot to mention it." And he's like, "Yeah, it's
Whoops.
Tuesday." I'm like, it was like it was like Friday or something like that. It was the following like Monday or Tuesday. I'm like, "Yeah, that sucks."
Doesn't
Mm.
suck. One of my
Because they were
favorite things
willing
about
to
DevUp,
just pay
yeah.
for us to go. And it's like,
Well, so this DevUp this year, it's one of my favorite things about DevUp is it's local, right?
yeah.
It's here in St. Louis. In fact, it's
Is
in
it
St.
only
Charles.
is it only this is the only dev up? I didn't know if they have
I
other
thought
ones.
so. I thought
Um,
so. Okay. Yeah, and it's also in St. Charles, the city I live in, a suburb of St. Louis, whatever.
Yeah.
No, everyone outside of here doesn't care.
Yeah.
But
it's
like,
right
so
outside St.
what was
Louis.
great,
It's-
yeah, yeah. If you're far enough away, it's just St. Louis.
Yeah.
But this year was special because now that I've been a developer for a while and I've seen people come and go, I've been a few things for a while, but I'm generalizing. I'm seeing I end up eating lunch there with people I used to work with.
Yeah.
Right. And there are new companies doing new interesting things.
And you would have
like,
if I would have freaking mentioned it. I would have been there eating lunch with you.
Yeah. And so like
Yeah.
those of us, like Leah, I know you don't do DevUp, but in theory, if it was a
I
data
could, though.
thing, yeah, you totally
I've
could.
actually been to DevUp.
I would love if there was actually a sequel presenter at
Lee,
DevUp. I would
let's do it.
100% go to
Yeah.
it.
Would stage a developer versus DBA with a positive ending. Everyone heard it live here first.
Okay, let's do it.
So yeah, okay, awesome. I'm not gonna geek out. Let's put in that. What was I talking about? So I think the great thing is meeting people that for me it's local. So it's all the people like every year you go, there's more and more people that you used to work with that you met, all that stuff,
or you're going to probably work with at some point.
It's true.
Yeah, possible.
There's God, I would come home with a stack of business cards, not of every vendor, but of people I actually talk to. Yeah. And then I would take all those and digitalize them, and yeah. So for those who don't know, there are apps that you can download to take a picture of a business card, and it stores all the information for you. It reads all the lines, and it stores all their stuff. It's
nice.
A time saver for conferences. But yeah, those are. There's been times when I've gotten calls from people I've met at conferences, or I've called people I've met at conferences when looking for new jobs, when kind of just feeling around the industry, see how everybody else is doing. Without conferences, I feel our outside stuff in general, because we did like the SQL Saturday, which is like a mini conference.
It's a 1-day mini conference, yeah.
Yeah.
It's also great, and it's on a Saturday.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, so like there's pluses and minuses to all that, right? Like the nice thing about DevUp during the week is if your company's sponsoring you to do it, then they're cool with you doing that work. It's still work. but you'd let the cool you doing that work that'll help your career and help them out,
Mm.
yada yada yada.
Right.
During the weekdays. But like not everyone has that option.
Yeah.
And so Single Saturday is cool. The fact that it's literally on a Saturday and it kind of hops around. We haven't had one since the three of us went to one. That was
Yeah.
the last one in St. Louis, right?
I think it was.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
Who do we need to talk to?
I would love to have
Well,
another one.
I actually know the answer to that.
Uh-oh.
I need to
And we're all presenting.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I don't know what I would present at Sequel Saturday. I go there to
You
learn.
you could do it though. Okay. We should do it. I've been wondering why they haven't come back.
Yeah.
I have a suspicion about why.
I would
But,
love if there was like every month. I would go.
yeah. So part of it's been the pandemic.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
in the last few weeks, there have been 5 or 6 advertisements pop up for Sequel Saturdays. So there's a Sequel Saturday in Orlando, LA. I think there's another one on the East Coast and one in another state in the West. I can't think of where it is they've just popped up recently. And I'm actually planning to build another presentation or two and try to go to those before pass to sharpen my own presenting skills, meet new people, and plug my business. So
Nice.
I'll give a lecture on imposter syndrome.
you could.
Soft
you
skills.
could give,
Heck yeah.
yeah, it's like a 45-minute, 50-minute classroom style discussion with a presentation. I mean, there's no reason you couldn't do that.
And to be fair, the ones I went to last time, so for those that don't know or haven't gone to conferences, a lot of times there's like a spicy meter. You know, you go to a Thai restaurant, there's like the chili peppers to see how spicy it's gonna be. They have that at
Oh,
conferences. They have like beginner, intermediate, advanced. So
Mhm.
you know that you're not diving in too deep when you get into a class and you're not wasting your time. Do we need to make that now? So the ones I went to, and a lot of it was probably due to it was 100% due to imposter syndrome and not realizing that developers aren't supposed to really know SQL. Like my side development doesn't really know SQL like at all.
You use that thing called Entity Framework.
Well,
that's a whole nother topic.
Did I shoot you over that latest? I don't think I did. No, I thought I put an admin. I'll put it over. I can send it over, but there's an API we use through.
Yeah,
I can say that's Cisco. That's a very big company.
Yeah,
everybody kind of uses that stuff. So
sure.
Their API to do SQL grabbing, you write the SQL and then send it through the API. I got back some things we're trying to change in the actual Cisco stuff, the actual tables. The first thing that
not that Cisco done.
Well, I'm assuming
that's awesome.
Yes. No. Wrong Cisco. I was thinking a different Cisco, but I'm old. Yes. So
Derailed as usual.
The first line that came up in my return query, I just did the top, returned one result just to see every column, right? First one that came up was a primary key. Okay, makes sense. Having a primary key.
Oh, okay. All right. This isn't like in the web UI. This is from. Okay, go ahead.
No, this is my backend.
Yeah. All right.
stuff.
Go ahead.
Came up with the primary key, and I literally laughed verbally because it was a very large GUID.
Oh my god! You're killing me.
And I go, that
killing
is
me.
A novice. Thanks for the follow there, bud.
Yeah,
but
thank you.
yeah,
thanks for joining.
The shock was like subdued because of the fact that it's Cisco and they're not my favorite. But
Okay.
I saw it and I was just like, I'm like these motherfuckers.
Hey, not everyone's against squids. I'm just.
I know, but I was just laughing.
No,
'cause
but
I
they
said-
should be.
and it's a very big talking point
Flag
every
on the
time it
field.
gets brought up with Lee, and I'm like, this is a very large company, but okay, that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, it was interesting. So thought I'd bring that up. But yeah, so I think this is a good format. We'll have the three of us. So this week, obviously, you guys all heard from Lee.
Yeah.
And we look forward to hearing as your career progresses as well. This is just getting us to where we are right now. Just catching everybody up. Now we just keep you updated as we make moves forward, because I know all three of us are always working. The hustle is real, as they say. Yeah.
To better ourselves and
It
move the
is.
career forward. Yeah.
Yep.
Always trying to move forward.
Yeah. So
Um,
I guess we're looking for a rate now.
Yeah, I got a raid. Let me double check, make
It's
sure it's
amazing
still
to
good.
think. It's amazing to think that we thought we were gonna do all three in one stream. Like,
Yeah, I don't
there's
have
no
any
point in
That's
it.
why
idea.
40 minutes in, I'm like, holy crap, I've like taken all of our
And you
time.
just cut it short, and I'm like, I still think you skipped. Like, there's a point
I
where you said,
did.
okay, let's jump ahead to,
Yeah.
not even your current job, but like your basically your previous one. If I'm carrying the one and counting that right.
Yeah.
And so like you just like jumped over some, and still it took up so this much time. So like, which
Yeah.
is a good thing. There's a lot
Yeah.
to talk about. There's a lot of impact.
I think it was about 20 minutes in when I sent the message that I was like, this is a one per, because
Yeah.
like as you were talking, I'm like, I got a lot to talk about too, I guess. Like there's things that you don't quite think about as part of your career until you start talking about how you went from one part of your career to another, and you're like, well, I need some backup story for this because it's not gonna make
Right.
sense.
Right. Sure.
So yeah, we'll do one per week. Anthony, would you like to go next week, or would you like me to?
If you don't have a preference, I can go ahead and do it. If you want to do it, then I can go third. I
Uh,
can be the closer if you like, or I can go next.
so we usually alternate per week. So is next week supposed to be me or you? Is this week
Find
me?
out in a
This
moment.
week's me, I think.
I think this week was you, actually.
Probably should have gone with me then. Mess up the whole rotation.
We just make it up as we go along.
That's
I mean, that's pretty accurate.
well. Then I'll do next week so that we can get back on rotation. Then you're back on your normal week.
There you go.
Awesome. So,
Science. Okay.
So
Well then,
we'll
yeah.
hear about
that's,
Sean's career next week and how he got into it and how it progressed.
and Grady's too, but the
all of
Yes.
most people
them. All the
already know.
people.
I hate it
Oh,
when
yeah.
I do that.
Nah, it happens.
Figure
But
out
the
in there somewhere.
I
for
need to
you
get
do.
the my stream element or my stream deck to be like beep. So I know it's an option.
I know I wanted to have an applause button so bad earlier. I can't, there's more than once that Lee was saying something, and I wanted to push a button for applause. We do need to upgrade our tech someday. I keep thinking
Yeah.
I'm going to do it, but I'm never finding the time.
We can do this if Lee says I am the Senate. We can make something happen.
I am the Senate? What?
There it
I
goes.
am the Senate. That's awesome. And my kid would totally love that. I'm going to show it to him later.
So then now let's go and I'll clip that so we can keep it. But speaking of clipping, if anybody's ever watching and you see something stupid or whatever, make sure you clip it and throw it in the Discord.
Stupid,
And-
something funny, something smart, especially something stupid.
Usually it's something stupid. If you happen to hear us say something smart once in a while, go ahead and clip that as well.
We do that last.
That might, yeah, I was going to say that might be accident.
It happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think this has been great.
It's
I knew
also
a lot
record
about.
turnout, by the way, record turnout.
Oh,
So
record
that's pretty
turnout.
exciting.
Really? Awesome.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you guys for
Usually I
supporting.
interject somewhere there and tell everyone hi, but I really didn't this time. Say something in chat, but like a lot of people, we really appreciate you guys joining in.
Yeah, lurkers
No, feel
definitely
free.
appreciate.
yeah, feel free to join us in chat or Discord. More
Yeah,
people are
go ahead
active,
and
so
drop
it's
the
great.
Discord link if you don't mind there. I have
On
the
it.
raid set up already, so I didn't want to delete it.
Should
But
I
yeah,
drop the Twitch link too?
drop it all. Do it. Do it.
Do it.
Boom. You didn't do it. I looked at the wrong one. We have a Twitch command now.
Yay! Finally. Those of you who are new, I type in pound Twitch every time to attempt overrating into adding something. He added something, and
you
ironically
go.
enough, I did pound Thai earlier. So like I tried to do the wrong thing, but
That's hilarious.
yes, I'm excited. Feel free to keep changing that because I'm gonna do it
You
again.
know, one of
So
these
have
days
it.
we will also discuss the tech behind our stream and how we need to improve it. It
probably
has a
have to
pretty
decide how-
looking. It looks pretty from the front end, but the stuff in the back end is not automated, and we really
That's
need to work on
that's a lesson in
automation.
development. That's a lesson in development as it is. It's usually it is like
Mhm.
usually you have like this beautiful front end and the mid tier is kind of a wreck. They get back to the databases and there's a reason why me and Lee are going gray.
Yes,
What do you mean, you and Lee? You serious?
because
This
of all
this
those
camera
GUIDs.
does me favors. We'll say that. This is not reflections in my hair. That is silver,
Okay.
my friends. But yeah, so next week we'll I guess it'll be me talking, gonna run you through my startup from when I was
Here he
just
was
a wee
3,000 years ago.
yes, a wee developer in 2006 and progressing till now. So look forward to everybody coming and hanging out again. And yeah, we're gonna raid Major Linux. So if you guys want to do your closings, we can get this raid going.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, I'm Anthony, data engineer. Thank you guys for coming.
And Lee, database administrator. Appreciate you listening and chiming in the chat.
And I am O'Grady. As always, make sure you go to our Twitters and follow us for any updates on the stream. We'll make sure we drop them there if we are canceling or need to reschedule or something. So, yeah. Until then, we'll catch y'all later. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.